Have you ever found yourself at a family gathering, maybe around the dinner table, where one small comment spirals into a heated argument? You're sitting there, just wanting to enjoy time with your loved ones, but suddenly you're caught in the middle of a disagreement that leaves everyone tense. If you're over 60, you might be feeling like these moments hit harder than they used to. Maybe you're wondering how to keep the peace without draining your energy or losing your cool. Family conflicts can feel heavier as we age, but they don't have to steal your joy. I'm here to share 5 practical ways to handle those tricky family moments with grace, so you can stay calm and keep your relationship strong. Let's dive into the first couple of strategies that can make a real difference. First, let's talk about setting boundaries with love. Now, boundaries might sound like putting up walls, but it's really about creating space for healthy relationships. As we get older, our patience can wear thin, especially when family members push buttons. Whether it's a sibling who always brings up old grudges or a grown child who expects you to solve their problems. Setting boundaries means deciding what you're okay with and communicating it clearly, but kindly. For example, imagine your daughter keeps calling you late at night to vent about her job. You want to be there for her, but those late calls leave you exhausted. You could say something like, "I love hearing from you, but let's talk before 8 p.m. so I can get some rest." It's direct, but it shows you care about the relationship. The key is to be consistent. If you set a boundary, stick to it. If you give in, it's like teaching them it's okay to ignore your needs. This worked wonders for my friend Susan, who's 68. She used to dread visits from her brother because he'd criticize her life choices, everything from her cooking to how she spends her retirement. One day, she calmly told him, "I'm happy to catch up, but let's keep things positive." When he started nitpicking, she'd gently redirect conversation or excuse herself for a moment. Over time, he got the message, and their visits became more enjoyable. Boundaries don't mean cutting people off. They're about teaching others how to treat you with respect. It takes practice, but it's a game changer for keeping your peace. Now, let's move on to the second way to handle family conflicts: listening without taking sides. This one's tough, especially when you're caught between 2 family members who can't see eye to eye, like your kids arguing over who's right or your grandkids pulling you into their drama. After 60, you've likely seen enough to know that jumping into the fray often makes things worse. Instead, try being a listener who stays neutral. That means hearing them out without judging or picking a side. You might say, "I hear how upset you are, and I can see why this is hard." This shows you're there for them, without fueling the fire. Let me share a story. My neighbor Tom, who's 72, had 2 daughters who weren't speaking after a big misunderstanding about their mom's care. They both wanted Tom to back them up, but he refused to choose sides. Instead, he'd listen to each daughter separately, nodding and asking questions like, "What do you think would help right now?" By staying out of the argument, he helped them cool down, and eventually they worked it out themselves. Listening like this isn't about fixing the problem. It's about giving them space to feel heard. It saves you from being the referee and keeps your stress low. These first 2 strategies, setting boundaries with love and listening without taking sides, are powerful tools to keep family conflicts from stealing your peace. They're about protecting your energy while still showing up for the people you care about. Next, we'll explore how to use clear communication to avoid misunderstandings and keep things calm. So, we've been talking about keeping your peace when family conflicts pop up, and now let's dive into another way to make that happen: using clear, honest communication to avoid misunderstandings. As we get older, it's easy to assume everyone knows what we're thinking, but that's often where things go off the rails. Maybe you didn't mean to sound short with your son when he offered to help with errands, but he took it as you pushing him away. Or perhaps your sister thinks you're upset because you didn't call her back right away, when really you were just tied up with a doctor's appointment. Misunderstandings like these can snowball, especially when emotions are already running high. The fix? Say what you mean kindly and directly, without leaving room for guesswork. For example, instead of dropping hints or staying silent, try being upfront in a gentle way. If your cousin keeps inviting you to family events that feel overwhelming, you might say, "I really appreciate the invites, but big gatherings are a bit much for me these days. Can we plan a quieter coffee date instead?" This isn't just about being clear. It's about respecting your own needs while showing the other person you value the relationship. The trick is to avoid blaming or accusing. Use I statements like, I feel overwhelmed when, instead of, you always make me. It keeps the conversation from turning defensive. My friend Linda, who's 65, used this approach when her grandkids kept leaving a mess at her house. Instead of snapping, she said, I love having you over, but I need help tidying up before you go. They started pitching in, and it saved her a lot of frustration. Clear communication takes a little courage, but it's like clearing the fog. It helps everyone see where you're coming from. Now, let's talk about another key strategy: choosing your battles wisely. Not every disagreement needs to be a showdown. When you're over 60, you've probably learned that some things just aren't worth the energy. Maybe your nephew keeps parking in your driveway without asking, or your daughter-in-law has a habit of giving unsolicited advice about your health. Annoying? Sure, but ask yourself, is this worth getting worked up over? Sometimes letting small stuff slide can save you a lot of stress. That doesn't mean ignoring everything. It means picking what matters most. If it's a one-time thing or something minor, like your son forgetting to call on your birthday, maybe let it go with a gentle reminder later. But if it's a recurring issue that really affects you, like a family member disrespecting your time, then it's worth addressing calmly using those boundaries or communication skills we talked about. I remember my Uncle Joe, who's 70, used to get into it with his sister over politics at every family dinner. It would ruin the whole evening. One day, he decided it wasn't worth the fight. He'd smile, say, let's agree to disagree, and change the subject to something neutral, like old family stories or a new recipe he tried. The table stayed peaceful, and he didn't feel like he was compromising his values. He just chose not to let those debates steal his calm. Picking your battles is about focusing on what keeps your relationship strong and your heart light. It's like saving your energy for the moments that really count. These strategies, clear communication, and choosing your battles, are all about staying in control of how you respond, even when family tensions flare up. They help you keep the peace without feeling like you're giving up who you are. Next, we'll look at one more way to handle conflicts that can bring everyone closer together, even in the toughest moments. Let's wrap up our journey through handling family conflicts with one final strategy that can truly bring everyone closer, even when things get tough: practicing forgiveness with understanding. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean pretending everything's fine or letting people walk all over you. It's about letting go of the hurt and resentment that can weigh you down, especially after 60, when you want your days filled with joy, not grudges. Family conflicts can leave scars. Maybe your son said something thoughtless that stung, or your sister keeps bringing up a decades-old argument. Holding on to that anger only steals your peace. Instead, try to see where they're coming from. Maybe your son was stressed and didn't mean to snap, or your sister's stuck in her own pain. Understanding their perspective doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you release the emotional baggage. Take my friend Margaret, who's 67. She hadn't spoken to her daughter for months after a falling out over a family decision. It hurt, and Margaret felt betrayed. But one day, she sat down with her daughter and said, I want us to move forward. Can you share what's going on for you? By listening and showing she was willing to let go, Margaret opened the door to healing. They didn't agree on everything, but they rebuilt their bond. Forgiveness like this is a gift you give yourself. It frees up your heart for the good stuff, like laughing with your grandkids or enjoying a quiet evening. The key is to forgive on your terms. Maybe even start with a small step, like a kind word or a short call to reconnect. It's not about forcing it. It's about choosing peace over pain. Now, as we bring this all together, think about how these 5 strategies work hand in hand. Setting boundaries with love helps you protect your energy while keeping relationships intact. Listening without taking sides lets you stay a safe space for your family without getting pulled into their drama. Clear communication cuts through misunderstandings before they spiral. Choosing your battles saves your strength for what really matters. And practicing forgiveness with understanding lets you let go of grudges so you can enjoy your family, flaws and all. These aren't just quick fixes. They're ways to build stronger, healthier connections while keeping your calm. You've earned the right to live with less stress and more joy, And these steps can help you get there. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you tried any of these strategies? Maybe you've got a story about how you handled a family conflict or a tip that's worked for you. Share it below. It might inspire someone else. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more practical tips to make life after 60 the best it can be. You're not just getting older, you're getting wiser, and these tools can help you navigate family life with confidence. Here's to living your best life, surrounded by the people you love, with a heart full of peace. See you in the next video.